Hello Uganda, good evening and welcome to the show On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. Now tonight we take on one of the most controversial proposals currently before the Parliament of Uganda. The Sovereignty Bill, a piece of legislation that its backers claim will defend the country's independence, but which critics say could fundamentally tighten state control over civic and political life. At the heart of the debate is a difficult question. Is this bill truly about protecting Uganda from foreign interference? Or is it a strategic move to silence dissent, restrict civil society, and consolidate power under the gaze of sovereignty? Provisions reportedly linked to increased scrutiny of external funding, expanded government oversight, and tough regulatory measures have already raised alarm among activists, opposition voices, and sections of the international community. Yet, supporters insist that no nation can afford to outsource its sovereignty. So we talk about these issues, and my guests include the Honorable Godfrey Kavyanga, State Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Benjamin Katana, Treasurer, National Unity Platform, and Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, a political analyst. Mr. Benjamin Katana, Honorable Godfrey Kavyanga, and Dr. Serunkuma, gentlemen, a warm welcome to all of you here.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure.
Let me begin with you, Honorable Minister. I'm beginning with you because this proposition is coming from government and you want to defend the sovereignty of Uganda, and that's why this bill is coming. Just bring us to speed on what this bill is all about so that from there we can carry on.
I think the bill is all about regulating foreign funding and ensuring that all these funds which come from outside the country are within our national interests and may not distort our values and aspirations. So it's not about stopping money from coming, but it's about regulating money that comes in and also assuring that it comes from a known source and for a known purpose, and also to assure that it is spent appropriately according to why it was secured.
A big chunk of Uganda's national budget most of the time is coming from foreign sources, almost 30 to 30%, and this has been the case. Has our sovereignty been, threatened because the government of Uganda is always moving into those foreign capitals with a begging bowl?
Yeah, but when Uganda goes to borrow or receives a grant, it is for a specific purpose, and whatever it is coming to do is well known, and it is budgeted for, and all the sources are always known, and it is spent. First of all, it is appropriated by Parliament and spent on known activities. And the sovereignty bill is not going to stop money from coming in. But I think what we want to do as a nation is to ensure that money which comes in is within our national interests.
You sound like a person who is attempting to bait the very hand that feeds him. Because if you look at the money that is coming out outside Uganda, it's the kind of money that is helping government propel government programs, but also Ugandans who are living abroad. We have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Ugandans, majority of them in the Middle East, and you only look at the remittances. I think the remittances are more than any other source of money that comes into government.
And the sovereignty bill is not going to stop money from coming in. I think that's why that's the the problem are found. Everybody is interpreting it in a different way. It's not going to stop you from receiving money from your sister or your brother or your friend. Yeah, but it gives government the mandate to monitor that money, where it's coming from, what it is coming to do, and that's all.
So before you come to Mr. Benjamin Katana, for decades, Uganda has been receiving money, whether it is civil society organizations or even the central government and individuals from outside of Uganda. How all of a sudden have you realized that this money coming from out of Uganda could actually threaten our sovereignty?
Dynamics change. You know, the world is not static. Dynamics change. What probably World Bank, IMF, and other funders used to fund in the past and the way they used to fund it, dynamics have changed. And therefore, when dynamics change, you have to look forward and see how you can regulate.
So is this threat to the government or to the country or to the regime?
I think what we are putting in place is a system how we can monitor the money coming in and for what purpose.
Okay.
So there might be there are national interests and probably threats and risks which we can foresee in the current global dynamics.
Okay.
And therefore we must put their measures.
Let me come to Mr. Benjamin Katana, because I think this will be hitting you real hard, because you are the treasurer, you're the man in charge of the money, I suppose, at the National Unity Platform, which is the biggest opposition political force in Uganda. And when you hear this sovereignty bill coming to Parliament, that should be an existential threat to you as a party, is it?
Well, I think first of all is that we are the leading proponents of sovereignty. If there is anybody who is a threat to the sovereignty of Uganda, is the NRM government, which has largely auctioned the country. The debt burden, I think now has shot through the roof, and the lenders are not Ugandans largely, much as they are also, you know, there's also internal borrowing, but you are borrowing this money from foreign sources. So if there's anybody, and the sovereignty is largely about independence, about self-determination, in formulation of internal policies and things of that nature. But, and so if you have people who are lending you money and they are not nationals, then they have capacity and ability to influence your internal policies. So if that money is largely ends up in pockets of individuals. So if there is anybody that is a threat to the sovereignty of this nation, is the NRM government. But number two, this bill is largely targeting about 3 categories. And you know, the convenient excuse that autocratic governments world over and since time immemorial use to engage in repression is national security, which is an ambiguous statement that they can rely on to categorize any other divergent opinion and things of that nature as being against national security and national interests. And so this is the lie that they have presented to give their ill motive some legitimacy, the ill motive that is behind this bill. They are targeting different categories, but key among the categories they are targeting is the Uganda diaspora. The NRM government operates like the colonial machinery. If your ability to enjoy your rights as a citizen is dependent on towing the line. They have used different approaches to get support of the diaspora. But on account of, first of all, most of these Ugandans in the diaspora are people who have run away because of the incompetence and inability of the NRM government to create a conducive environment for them to work and prosper. So they've gone to look for opportunities elsewhere. Some are in the Middle East, others are in Europe, others are in the America and elsewhere. So these people have been making a huge contribution to the economy. I think now figures are estimated at about $2.5 billion US remittances from Ugandans in the diaspora. These are people who have been denied an opportunity to participate in voting, yet the law allows them to do so. They are citizens. Even the Supreme Court of Uganda made recommendations in the Amama Mbabazi versus Electoral Commission and Yoweri Kaguta Museveni case in 2016 that they should be allowed to participate in the voting process. Now, they have gone ahead to introduce a provision that strips them of citizenship, which citizenship is the creation of the Constitution. When you look at the provisions of the bill, they classify Ugandans in the diaspora as foreigners. And they also classify their relatives, their spouses, their friends who receive any money from them as agents of foreigners. That is the first category. They have used so many tactics to lure the Ugandan diaspora to support the NRM government, but on account of the push factors that have compelled them to leave the country, but also on account of exposure, that some of them have lived in countries and they have seen how citizens enjoy living in their countries, which they are not seeing in their country. It has been very hard for them to, you remember how the NRM government tried to take over the Uganda, North America, or whatever, and different other avenues. They have used money, they have used all sorts of things, they have failed. And just recently, especially after the National Unity Platform, during the just concluded elections, was denied its entitlement of receiving money from the consolidated fund like other parties that are represented in parliament. The regime thought that we would not be able to run a campaign, but our supporters in the diaspora worked very hard to finance the campaign. And I believe that that caused discomfort, and now the regime is moving to punish them.
So you are actually stating tonight that the biggest source of your money, biggest or whatever it is coming from your supporters in the diaspora?
Without a doubt. Because most of the other supporters here, they are unemployed. Majority of Ugandans who are employed earn little money. Those ones who are doing business, they are being frustrated by lack of a conducive environment, and therefore breaking even is very difficult. Even when they have the willingness to support, it is minimal. The other category, and related to that first category, is the opposition. I have given you an example that so because you have challenges raising money here, you have members of the opposition or supporters of the opposition in diaspora who are able to make some meaningful contributions to the cause, and so you want to cut off. You want to cut off that vein as well, so that you are able to completely squeeze the opposition. The third category is the civil society. Autocratic regimes want to have a population that lacks civic competence. And the civil society has been promoting civic awareness and competence. That threatens every government that does not want to be held accountable by the citizens. It threatens every government that wants to engage in repression. And the regime knows that most of these civil society organizations are able to conduct their activities because they have been supported. Civil society, just like government, largely, because the people here, most of us don't have money. Money flows from the global north to the global south. And just like government, even civil society receives support from the global.
Let me ask, if you have civil society organization, Benjamin, if you have civil society organization getting money from North America or Europe, from the Northern Hemisphere, into the sectors of governance and democratic leadership, obviously, the people who are sending in money have also their intentions. But they have their motives, don't they?
But the same government receives money. Do you know? No, I'm giving you an example. Do you know a sector of government called justice, justice, law and order sector? That involves judiciary, it involves police, it involves prisons. These are key security agencies of the state. They are receiving funding from foreigners. So if you are saying that by investing in building civic competence in the country, you are threatening by foreigners, you are threatening the security of the country. How about having security agencies that are funded by foreigners?
So that is a bigger threat. Do they give these millions of dollars to the civil society and opposition with absolute?
No, they don't give opposition. I don't think there's
in the civil society without any kind of motive. They don't they have their own ideas on why they're funding?
I think, Patrick, first of all, and the viewers, is for people to understand the ecosystem of the global community. That the global community is one entity. What happens in Uganda affects Kenya, by effect affects Canada. Do you know the number of Ugandans who have run Canada as refugees? Do you know the number of Congolese who have run Sweden as refugees? Because there are governance issues in DRC, there are governance issues in Uganda, and you have people running away as refugees to the global north where you don't
I
want
also
to
know Ugandans who have gone to live in refugee camps in Nakivale and Oruchinga, pretending they're Congolese or Burundian refugees so that they can be repatriated to Canada.
So you have,
yeah, but so these are Ugandans.
But what do you think? Yes,
pretending they are refugees.
And the bigger question,
see Kigandongo for months, and then they are
not pretending.
There are push factors. Yes, there are push factors, and that's the point. So that the point is that the world has all the reasons to pay attention to what happens in any part of the world. Because
just before,
what happens in any part of the world affects the whole world.
Just before I came on, I was reading a story on International Wires of in the United Kingdom where people, especially students, because when their visa expire, they claim they are gay, and then they create a backstory so that they can stay in the UK, claiming that because they are being persecuted in Africa, and they claim they are gay when they are not. It's just been running
because
right
there are push factors here.
Anyway,
leadership has failed to create a conducive environment for people to find jobs, for people to work and prosper. So they must run away. If you are a leader in any part of the world and you have your citizens pretending to be refugees to go and live in other countries, it means that you have failed.
There was a North American conference of the Luo community in North America. And it so happened that people who were going to attend could not even say Hopango. And there were the Serunkumas, and there were Kamara, and there were the Katanas. And they reached Montreal, and they realized none of them, okay, there were a few Luos, but none of them were Luo. I know somebody who organized that. I know people who are pretending, and of course the Canadians won't know that Serunkuma is not Luo. Only that you reach there, this is supposed to be the Luo Nation
because of the Luo
Nation Convention.
The incompetence of the government.
And who is going there? Our Luo brothers are actually not going there. You find the Serunkuma of this world in Canada are going to attend the Luo Nation Conference. But Mr. Serunkuma...
Just on that,
yes.
You can imagine the personal embarrassment to claim what you're not, the ignominy of saying I'm a refugee, the ignominy of claiming I am homosexual when you're not, just so that you can survive. It's a survival strategy. And I think the word pretense doesn't properly capture the pain that somebody goes through to claim what they are. I write in my book that a migrant worker who dies in Saudi Arabia or in Qatar or in Dubai dies 3 times before he reaches the point of death. The first place of death is here. Because I don't know if you've lived abroad, Mr. Kamara. I have. Abroad is not a nice place to live. And I'm telling you as a man who lived in privilege. I lived in Germany as a scholar. But I didn't like that experience either. I lived in privilege. So I cannot imagine the pain people go through to live in slave relations just so as to escape their countries.
You see, this is very,
it's very painful.
Whereas you may find it painful in Germany, maybe you didn't like it. By the way, I have my own story. I paid money to to get out of New York before my time. So to change my ticket, I'd have to pay extra $100 when everything is paid for in the hotel. Why? Because I'm tired of the weather. I have to leave. But I also know people who are dying to go. Yes, I'm paying money to get out of New York.
They are desperate.
Yeah.
They're not dying to go. It's a point of desperation. It's being stuck between a rock and hard place. The first place of death is the humiliating experience you go through right here in your home country. You are dead. You see, 14 million Ugandans are mentally sick. That's according to the Ministry of Health. And the minister also said the number is a lower estimate. So, and I think saying that they have mental problems, you can make a direct connection to the economy. That the pain they go through, aching an existence, amidst potholes, amidst arrogant and entitled tax collectors. Because you see, we have a government of tax collectors and borrowers. The only thing that this government knows is borrowing and collecting taxes. So the pain of your business being closed when you're just trying to begin, living out an economy where to take a loan, you have to pay 45% just to take a loan, 40%. You're dead already. And you say, come and buy. Let me take the gamble. Because you see, when others come back, you feel like, well, they went through the pain and they somehow managed to make it. But many never make it.
I want you to put on your political analytical lens and look at the sovereignty bill and tell us your interpretation.
Yeah, this is my reading, Mr. Kamara. I wrote in my column in The Observer about 2 weeks ago that Iran is telling us something, that we should listen to our PhDs, right? And I used PhD as imagery, that we should listen to our scholars, to our more knowledgeable people. This is a problem of running a government without an ideological anchor, without knowledgeable people. I imagine the people drafting this bill don't even understand the term sovereignty. They don't even understand the history as to how groups such as the opposition or civil society started receiving money. I'm sure they have no clue. So you can draft a bill of this nature. The term sovereignty, the origin of sovereignty, is preventing what leaves the country, not what comes in. The original idea, because it comes from the anti-colonial struggle, independence, to be sovereign is you stop pillage from your country, that you make use of what is in your country. Because you see, we were in a colonial period where we were being looted for sport. We were being looted. So the crafters of independence, and therefore the term sovereignty, is that the looting has to stop. That's the origin of the term sovereignty. Now, in this country, Benjamin touched it, Museveni has given this country to foreigners. The people who our grandparents fought against.
What do you mean he has given them?
I'm coming to that. The people that our parents fought against in the anti-colonial struggle, Museveni has welcomed them. Patrick, our economy is run by foreigners. In fact, my friend Kalundi Serumaga said, Uganda doesn't have an economy. Uganda hosts a foreign economy. Because you see, look at our banking. 24 banks, only 3 are locally owned. And all the native banks have been closed without even minutes. That's according to the Auditor General, John Mwanga told Parliament in 2001 during the closure of Grand Bank. If you look at our coffee, 70% of it is exported by foreigners. If you look at our telecom sector, all of it is foreign owned. If you look at our gold, we don't even know who the gold dealers are. If you go to Karamoja, where you have cobalt and all those things, foreign hands. So the people who handed over the entire country to foreigners are telling us you should stop money from coming in. And you see, let me tell you how it's a problem to be governed by less educated people. I should say, for lack of a better word, people who are lacking in knowledge. Countries make money through 2 things. Either they exploit what they have, or they go abroad and steal. All the countries that have made it, they've either made it through exploiting what they have, or they have gone abroad and stolen. We are doing neither. We are not making use of what we have. We have instead handed it over to Mzungu, and we are not even stealing from abroad.
So let me come back to the Honorable Minister, because the Minister of State for National Guidance. What you have said even reminds me of our history. The DNM government, if I may sum it up what you said, is working like the Imperial British East African Company. You're collecting for the other people. I bear.
Serumuma is a very interesting character. Now, Being a scholar doesn't mean you are the most knowledgeable. It's not at all.
I didn't
Because when you say that some of these,
I said
some of these bills are
have you read the bill?
I've read the bill. I've read it because it went through cabinet.
It was drafted by a knowledgeable person.
But it was drafted by lawyers. You know, Attorney General's chambers. So now, example of things, being a scholar with a PhD is the most knowledgeable.
Now,
it will be processed in the parliament, which has also very knowledgeable people. So they are very knowledgeable people, but probably they define sovereignty in a different way from yours. Because you can have several definitions for the same thing. But what I'm saying is, this bill was processed, is being processed in the interests of this country. And because you're talking about refugees or whatever, this country itself is the biggest host of refugees. While probably Ugandans are going to seek refugee status in Canada, others are coming here because they find peace here. And some of the government allows foreigners more than international. No, not at all. Because some of these people are going for looking for their dreams, American dream, Canadian dream. But even those countries where they are going, there is unemployment, and some of them are suffering and struggling to come back. Actually, most of them would have even come back to Uganda. But sometimes you fear coming back with nothing. And you decide to stay there. So we have to look at everything objectively. Not everybody who is rushing to go to Canada, to America, is a political refugee. Some of them are going there as economic refugees, but they think that's where probably manna is found in the road. But when they reach there, they find they are also struggling. So, me, I think...
what will this bill cure?
This bill, I have told you, is looking at when this money... obviously, not all money that is coming in this country is coming for bad intentions. But automatically, the global world now, the way it is, money can come in for bad what? Intentions.
Sufficient legal framework.
It can. That. And therefore, we have to forestall all this to see that if there is any money that comes in for bad intentions, we should really not allow it.
I have seen when money, when money hits my account that is more than the usual. I've been called to talk about the source of the fund.
Yes, why don't you talk about the source of the fund?
No, what I'm saying, the current legal regime can address that concern.
Now we are strengthening the current legal regime. There's money which has come in to finance homosexuals here.
And there's the financial intelligence authority.
Yes, there is financial intelligence authority. Yes, and it's framework. It's being some regulates cash inflow. But now we are strengthening that framework because
the financial intelligence authority and other legal regimes that are around, you have formed them wanting?
No, we are giving them more powers now.
They already have the power.
And they already are using the little power. We are now giving strengthening their powers.
Mr. Benjamin Katana, do you feel the NRM government is coming for you through this bill?
Not necessarily us alone, but it is coming for the people of Uganda. Because you see, Uganda has largely descended into a police state. In terms of control today, they want to control everything you say or do. As we speak, we have people who are languishing in jail for exercising opinion. I was joking with Mwalimu Yusuf that very soon there will be a department that maybe is it called Directorate of Intelligence and Security, VPDF, to vet the curriculum that you are going to teach. And the notes you are going to give
should be vetted.
Because autocratic regimes thrive on control. You must control the population. They may even come up with a uniform to say that everyone in the country now you must put on yellow on Tuesday, because they must control. These are not citizens but subjects.
No,
the power relations between the population and those that are running the state infrastructure. The opposition certainly is part of the population and is going to be affected by this, but this is not restricted. Because, for example, if you look at this bill, even a teacher working in a school which is supported by a foreign entity is classified or going to be classified as an agent of a foreigner. Even a doctor working in a health facility, even a boda rider who has received support from a relative in Abu Dhabi to buy boda is classified as an agent of a foreigner, because now this relative, this law intends to strip them of their citizenship. So it has far-reaching effects on the people of Uganda. And I think people should not take it lightly. This is not just about the politicians. You know, some people sometimes think that, oh, this is going to affect the politicians, but this has far-reaching effects. It is going to, even these young people I see who are earning money through TikTok, they are going to be affected because they are not earning this money from a local company. They are earning that money from a foreign company. They are going to be affected. And you see, everywhere in the world, every government that is worth the name is trying to make doing business easy by removing unnecessary red tape. But for you are creating red tape that requires an investor, because you know the contradiction that the NRM government is. You are trying to attract direct foreign investment, but at the same time you are putting in place what they call non-tariff barriers, that if you are bringing money, that not even in a goal that is in the region of 400 million, that you need to get clearance from the minister and of internal affairs. And with the corruption that we have seen in this country, if people are stealing 200 mabati and an investor is going to get clearance to access his money, the person may even end up losing half of that money. So this is going to have far-reaching effects on the population. People are going to lose jobs. There's nobody who is going to bring his money to invest in Uganda when, instead of removing these restrictions, you are creating restrictions. We are now moving towards the direction of countries like Eritrea. In Eritrea, if you are a citizen and you want to leave the country, you must first get permission. That is why everyone is running away. The big population of the country is in the diaspora as refugees. You see them here in Kabaragara and elsewhere. Uganda is moving. Would you want Uganda to be where? Would you want Uganda? Because that's where they are benchmarking. Maybe. Would you want Uganda to be where Eritrea is today? Certainly not. What are progressive nations doing? For you are doing retrogressive things and you want to be a progressive nation. It never works like that. So this is not just about the opposition. It is about the citizens of Uganda, and the area they realize that that is what it is. Even these ministers should be part of the group that is calling upon government to abandon that regressive legislation it is trying to introduce.
Yusuf, are we walking towards becoming a pariah state, or we're already there?
You know, there's a point I made earlier that the people who drafted this legislation, this bill, there's something which is missing. You see, in the period between 2001 and 2010, NRM had NRM ideologues and cadres, such as John Nagenda. I know where David Mafabi went. These were brilliant NRM cadres who invest time to think through these things before pushing them to become legislation. Because if you look back in the 1990s, when we went into structural adjustment, among other things that happened on the side was that those who forced us into privatization, those Museveni's friends who are now in charge of the economy, suggested that the other thing that we can do is to fund individual persons on the side to help government in what came to be known as non-government organizations. The entire idea is to actually work with government. So funders have a thing they call government budget support or project support. And the project could be projects which are embarked on by government, or they could be projects by individuals. This is why if you receive money, and I've been telling my friends with the NGO industry, if you receive money, the funders count it as money given to government of Uganda, as an individual NGO, because for them, they're giving it to the people of Uganda. So the money coming to NGOs and civil society was actually negotiated in the early 90s to actually work like that. This is that the system enables that as we privatized, and the governments on the African continent are struggling, so we should enable individual people who are making so much noise to actually help government. So among the work that NGO is doing is actually helping government. This is why you find them in education, public health, in civil society work, in all these projects, in poverty alleviation. You have an NGO in every single sector of this country doing something to help government, because that's the arrangement. Now, this arrangement was pre-negotiated. Now, I don't think the drafters of this bill have this history, because they would know that actually what we are trying to curtail was actually pre-negotiated, was agreed by the people who actually fund us. Our benefactors as government are actually the benefactors of the same people, and the arrangement is clear. Instead of having Katana take to the street to demand that you nationalize, say, Umeme, you have Katana receiving money and doing something in poverty alleviation or health. The entire idea is to actually help government.
Okay, so Honorable Kabyanga, picking from what Yusuf is saying, the fact is, civil society organizations, NGOs, are your strategic partners who are really subsidizing work of government. They are helping you in areas of health, public health, fighting HIV, in areas of fighting gender-based violence. I mean, you find almost every ministry, there's a civil society organization that is helping you. These are your strategic partners. But why do you want to make it hard for them to operate?
I think they will continue operating, and they will continue assisting us in all those sectors. But we are regulating inflow of money. We want to see how the money comes, because the NGOs must account. But for source of money,
even now you do. Before an NGO starts, first of all, you have to get a clearance from Interpol. You have to get a letter from the commissioner.
Even now,
you have to get all these things. You have to be cleared. You get a certificate that has to be is renewed every year. Patrick, those mechanisms are there.
Even now we are doing it. Those mechanisms are there. And when we saw that there were gaps, we have come up with a legal framework which should close those gaps. So we are not saying money shouldn't come in. No, money will continue coming in. And Dr. Serunguma should just get rest assured that nobody will interfere with his money so long as it is coming in the right channel.
We are not speaking from a vacuum that nothing has happened. This government has closed international organizations which are funding that organization. This government has actually closed temporarily or permanently some of the NGOs. So we're not speaking.
Yes, and there are reasons why.
Yeah, we're not operating in.
There are reasons why those NGOs have been closed.
You see, even when the State Research Bureau was arresting people here, disappearing people, they had reasons.
Exactly.
But these reasons go against the interests of the country, of the people, and the state. They are only in the interest of regime survival. So the biggest challenge that we are dealing with, Patrick, is a regime that has captured the state of Uganda and is doing it to whip whoever they are unhappy with. If you are an NGO, they close you. If you are Dr. SJ, they send you to prison. They are not dealing with people because they have acted against the interests of the state of Uganda, but they look at them as threats to regime survival. And that's precisely what it is.
Obviously, if you are an NGO and you are not operating within the legal framework, you will be questioned. Yes. You will be questioned because this is a sovereign state. And therefore, you cannot just come here and start dictating what you're going to do. No, you must work within our legal framework.
Sovereignty doesn't mean impunity. That you see, actually, the reason, the concept of the state, and Yusuf maybe may articulate this more, has been evolving to reach where it has reached. And why people come up with the constitution, come up with all these legislations, is to protect the citizens from the overreach of the state. The state does not have a leeway to kill citizens as it wishes, to mistreat citizens as it wishes. The state machinery has limits, and these limits are prescribed by the law. The challenge in Uganda is that now, because the state has been captured, state institutions that should be the gatekeepers, courts of law, parliament, are now all at the mercy of the executive. The executive can get away with whatever it wants. But the point we are making is that this is not just dangerous for the opposition, it is not dangerous for the civil society, ultimately it is dangerous for all the people of Uganda.
Yes, yes, the state has limits, but even NGOs have their own limits. They shouldn't go beyond those limits. And we cannot operate in vacuum. We must operate within our legal framework.
The supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution of Uganda, itself guarantees our sovereignty. If we follow it like it is, this country should not have any problem.
But after the Constitution, you must operationalize the Constitution.
Because the existing legal regime
is
sufficient enough to guarantee our
sovereignty. Exactly, but Kamara, you must make laws to operationalize the Constitution.
If I will come in here,
articles of the Constitution.
Our government has had a tendency of introducing broad legislation when they are targeting a singular entity.
Yeah. Which entity are we targeting here?
One or two
we have a history, and we can cite as many laws in this country which are introduced targeting a singular individual, a singular entity, but they are broad, and we live with, and everybody has to live with the effects of those laws.
Yeah.
Right? The easiest example is the law which requires people to resign their jobs to stand for positions of office. That law targeted Muhammad Chividige. After standing against Museveni and going back to Makere to work, he would stand and go back to work. Islam one time called him and said, "You man, you say Museveni has never held a job, that's why he's standing and dying on us." Very soon you will see a law, and then the next day there was a law saying for you to stand for any elective position, you resign 3 months to nomination.
But was that bad?
The entire idea.
Oh, it was
so dangerous.
Terrible.
The entire idea. Minister,
if you want
Minister, you're heckling. You're heckling. I'm just telling you our history of legislating for singular individuals, but ending up targeting everybody. So Chividige Mayanja, the entire idea was to bar him to stand for president and then go back to Makere and work. Now we have lived with the effect of that law, that people afraid of resigning their source of income have been locked into public service jobs. In fact, even here, I think here at NTV, which is not a public entity, you're required to resign if you want to stand for political office. The law became culture, but it came targeting a singular individual. Now, you see what happened in the last 2 years. They started DGF, Godbert Mushabe. They felt these civil society organs were getting money, which was being used for sort of subversive activities, but they didn't have a concrete legal regime to rein in on them. And because the DGF is an international organization, so inside, and you see how diplomats operate. Diplomats don't bring their contentions to the fore. Internally, they are pushing. And once in a while, you get a bombastic tweet from the CDF complaining about this international organization without telling us exactly why he's complaining. So right now, they are fumbling to come up with something to target these funders by calling them out, so that the next time they rain in on them, they have a regime, a legal regime under which they operate. Now the problem for us is that this thing is so encapsulating, is so large that it's even struggling with basic definitions, such as who is a foreigner, who is a foreign agent, who is sabotaging the economy. There's so many vague terminologies, such as foreign interests. If you say, I am supporting democracy, if you say I'm supporting human rights, that can easily be called a foreign interest. If you're saying I'm supporting religion, right? This is a faith-based organization. You're supporting Pentecostalism. One can say that's a foreign idea. You see, they're even struggling with basic definitions. And I said, and I mean this with all honesty, Patrick. You see, right now we're dealing with the last line of defense. in the NRM revolution. First were the peasants, then we came to the cadres, now you're dealing with the men of the guns. You know, this is the last line of defense. These ones, they're not very thoughtful. They're very combative. They are very aggressive. They deal with raw power. But oftentimes they get some low-brow people to sort of help them work through a legal framework that they can push. But the problem we're dealing with the last line of defense, I really think, Alan Kasuja, Andrew Mwenda, these sort of new recruits in the NRM cadreship, if they were given to sit through this law, even this man here who works for PLU.
Are you sure they are new recruits? Or they've always been?
They're slightly, they're not in the... I can tell you with all honesty, if they invited this man here, this man is a very brilliant Ugandan. If they invited him to think through this law, basic definitions, our history as a country, this man wouldn't pass it. But now he's being bogged down by collective responsibility. He has to defend the thing. And from how I hear Honorable Kabenga speak, he hasn't read the thing. He hasn't. He has no idea. This thing touches the economy. It says involving things which sabotage the economy. You see, and then people start to ask, what does sabotaging the economy mean? If a bank such as Stanbic, which is foreign owned, charges me 40% of interest, is it not sabotaging my economic work? What is sabotaging the economy?
And if you complain about it, then it will be classified as sabotaging the economy.
What do they mean? Like you said, basic, they're struggling. You know, I tweeted the first time I saw the thing, I said there are so many contradictions. You see, even the law, for example, Article 21 of this country, enables you to demonstrate and protest, right? Now, this new bill has such a line saying that is also illegal. Like, even reading the Constitution against what they are proposing, you may even assume they don't have sort of young lawyers to sort of put this debate together. So I said, it's a problem with dealing with the last line of defense. The last line of defense is short of cadres. And brilliant Ugandans like the Honorable Minister here is only given the money to go and defend a thing he doesn't really understand. And Mr. Kabi, I'm actually on your side, I'm telling you. I pity you. I pity this Uganda. I'm telling you, because you see, because I'll finish on this, Patrick. The political economic reading of sovereignty is protect money which leaves the country. Do these people know that for every dollar which comes into this country, 24 leave by other means? Are they aware? When they look at these small grants which are coming to this country, for every single dollar, Muzungu takes away 24. In this country, are they aware? Before you even start stopping small amounts like, is it $110,000 US dollars? That's a paltry amount. That amount can't overthrow a government. But you see, but you know,
that is money people are sending to build houses. Our people in diaspora are sending to their relatives to help them put up houses.
You just simplify things, eh?
And that's what scholars do. They make things easily accessible.
You cannot just say, we should only protect money that goes out of the country. What about this dollar which comes to the country, which can destabilize this country? And therefore, even what is there will not be of interest.
Patrick, is a friend of mine who says that the NRM people operate from a besieged mentality. They see a threat in everything.
Actually, I think you and I, when you look at yourselves in the mirror, I think you get scared of what you see.
No.
But you see that's what happens.
What is happening?
That's what happens. When you have stolen something from the people, when you have taken away people's sovereignty by the way, there is no, for example, why the colonial whatever was repressive, because they knew they had taken away something from the people. And naturally, the people are expected to fight back. These are rules of nature, laws of nature. Likewise, the NRM government, the leaders know what they have taken away from Ugandans, their freedom, their liberty, and they are always under the fear that people are going to fight back. So every day, all their efforts are consumed on how to prevent people from fighting back. That's why you cannot go and have, even when you go to sit at City Square, you'll be arrested. They'll say you're organizing people to burn the city. Because for them, that's the mentality, that's where they are. Because they have hurt the population so much, they believe the population is preparing to fight back. And indeed the population will.
Mr. Benjamin
But have you seen
Mr.
people
Benjamin
burning
Katana,
the
Honorable
city?
Godfrey Kabyanga, Dr. Yusuf Serinkuma. Gentlemen, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's look into the Chankwanzi retreat and the cash bonanza.